I'm on a spinny chair. Hi, welcome to my Doctor Who tag. This is where I'm going to answer a series of questions about Doctor Who and me. I got these questions from Luke Spillan's channel. He started this Doctor Who tag and I've just came across it and thought it seemed like a fun idea, so I've joined in the merriment now. I'm going to tag some people at the end of this video and hopefully they can do it, but if you want to have a go as well and just tell us, answer these questions about your love of Doctor Who, then please go ahead. So, question 1. Who is your favourite Doctor? Well, I got really into Doctor Who around about the time of the TV movie, so for me, my personal Doctor, in that same way that, you know, whenever you start watching Doctor Who properly and really get into it, the Doctor of that moment is kind of your Doctor, isn't he? Isn't that always the case? Well, that was the 8th Doctor for me. So I watched the TV movie, I loved it. I had encountered Doctor Who before, I had even owned VHSs of Doctor Who before, but I wasn't particularly a fan. It was just something I liked. It was just another VHS on my collection. It wasn't, you know, I wasn't as into it. I didn't get books and merchandise and other stuff, particularly before that. But I really got into it with the 8th Doctor. So for many, many years, he was my Doctor. And he still holds a place in my heart. However, I will say that David Tennant, when he came along, was a pretty damn good Doctor as well. And I think I now kind of have them at joint first place. Is that allowed? Can I put them at joint first place? I'm going to put them at joint first place. Question 2. What's your favourite story? I'm going to go classic and new Who here. So from classic Who, I think it's got to be the 5 Doctors. I love a multi-Doctor story. Who doesn't love a multi-Doctor story? It's in this case 5 times the amount of Doctor. What's not to love about that? Yeah, I had this one on VHS when I was younger. It had multiple villains. You had the Master in there. You had the Cybermen. You had the Daleks, all in one episode. And it was exciting seeing the Doctors get to meet each other. I mean, what's not to love? From New Who, I would go, well, I mean, there's several. I'm not sure I can pick just one, really. There's Blink. I mean, anybody's top sort of 5 of New Who episodes has to include Blink, doesn't it? And then there's, what else is there? I like the Doctor's wife, personification of the TARDIS in human form. That was exciting. And I liked the Wedding of River Song because it tied up that whole, well, it was kind of the culmination of that whole story arc from that season, which I really loved. And I really liked the Time of the Doctor because multi-Doctor story. Who doesn't love a multi-Doctor story? Question 3. Your favourite companion. Again, old Who, new Who. Old Who, I'm going to go with Sarah Jane Smith. She's, you know, she was the first one of the Doctor's companions, I think, to be really sort of feisty. First one of the female companions to be really sort of out there going, sort of a very not just screaming in corridors type companion, which I think, you know, it was the 70s by that point. They really needed to move with the times a bit. And they did with Sarah Jane. She's brilliant, and you know, her enduring appeal is evident by the fact that she's had 2 spin-offs on television. Well, one's pilot for a spin-off in K9 and Company in the 80s, and one very successful 5 seasons of Sarah Jane Adventures. She's got some lasting appeal, that Sarah Jane Smith. From modern Who, might be controversial, but I'm going to go with River Song. Okay, she may not be technically a companion because she doesn't travel constantly and live in the TARDIS, but then, you know, people count the Brigadier and he just went travelling with him to a single destination and came back again and to the base to sleep, and he counts. So I'm counting River Song. I'm going for it. I'm counting her and I really like her. Again, I loved that whole mystery right from the very first David Tennant episode. I thought, you know, the seeds were planted and it was a long game, and I really like that. I really like those story arcs where they plant the seeds of things. What was the first Doctor Who story you watched? This one's a bit tricky to remember because I was really quite young, I think. My dad used to watch Doctor Who when he was a child, I think, in the 60s and the 70s, and I guess he must have been watching some repeats, or maybe the tail end of the classic series in the late 80s when I was really young, when I was maybe a toddler or something, and I might have seen it, or maybe when I was a little bit older, 7 or 8, it might have been repeats on UK Gold or something, I don't know. But I think I must have picked it up from him and liked it enough to choose a VHS for it when I got to choose a VHS in Woolworths or whatever. I remember owning the Five Doctors, and I also remember owning, and I think this was first, the Dalek the Early Years VHS, which was kind of a documentary / clip show featuring, talking heads, interviewing people, and also clips of the remaining episodes that they had at the time from missing serials featuring the Daleks, like the Daleks Master Plan. And there was one whole episode, I think, of the Daleks Master Plan on it. I know it involved the Daleks time travelling to Victorian England, possibly through a cabinet, although I'm not clear on that. It's been a while since I watched it. But that was probably the very first episode of Doctor Who I watched in its entirety, I think, because I think I owned that one before I owned the Five Doctors. So I'm going to go with that as my first episode. What's your favourite series or era? It's going to be one of New Who, Series 6? Series 6. Series 6 of New Who. That's the one with, it's Matt Smith's second series. It's the one with the silence, the one where the River Song mystery really comes into its own and plays out. I really like that, and I know this divides a lot of fans because some people like those intricate, timey-wimey, things that happened in episode 1 affecting things that happened in episode 12 type plots. Some people hate them and would prefer every episode to be completely standalone and there not to be any threads running through it at all. Personally, I think that would be a step back for television. Television has moved quite firmly onto the serialized storytelling a lot more these days than standalones that it was back in 2005, and I think it would be a shame to go back to it. So yeah, that's my favourite one. I loved the silence, and I loved the whole story arc of that whole season, really. It was great. Favourite pre or post regeneration scene? Favourite pre or post regeneration scene? That's a tough one. Maybe the Paul McGann one, the one to Paul McGann, from Sylvester McCoy to Paul McGann. I liked what they did with the cutting against Frankenstein with that. So they mirrored what was happening with the Doctor to what was going on the TV with the Frankenstein film. That was quite good visually. That was very impressive, and just realised the question was actually what's your favourite pre or post regeneration episode. In which case I will say The Christmas Invasion. David Tennant's a fighting hand. He had a lot of energy. I liked it. What's your favourite TARDIS desktop theme? In the same way that Paul McGann is there's a special place in my heart for Paul McGann because he's kind of my Doctor, because he was the Doctor when I really first got into it, and I read the books and listened to some of the audio adventures from Big Finish and things featuring him. In a similar sense, kind of his TARDIS, I mean, it's the big, grand, gothic. It looks huge. It's the first time the TARDIS really felt like it was this immense, could be a whole world in there. So I really like that one. I also really like the current Peter Capaldi one. That's good as well. I like it. It's got the kind of nice blend of, it looks science fiction. It looks like it's big because it's got doors that lead off places and stuff, and corridors and levels. It's got levels, gotta like levels, and bookshelves and blackboards, and it feels like it's a lived-in place, and it's got lots of quirkiness to it. I quite like it, but it still looks sci-fi. One of those two. I'd just flip between them if I was the Doctor, personally. What's your favourite villain or monster? Well, we've been watching, if you've watched any other videos on my channel, you'll have noticed that we do a series, me, Chris and Rob do a series called Doctor Who Rebrief, where we go through all of Classic Who. We're up to about halfway through the Hartnell era at the moment, and we're going to take a break before going into doing some more in 2017, hopefully, and finishing off the Hartnell era. But the best ones I've come across so far from that have been the Sensorites. They were the first time Doctor Who had done a kind of complex culture where some of them were your enemy and they might be trusted, they might not be. Before that, any alien species had kind of been, this is a evil species. I like the fact that they're a bit more complex, and they kind of related to the Ood, so that's good. I like the Ood as well. The Ood, I'm going to add the Ood to my list. I don't just have one, and I really like the Daleks. Who doesn't like the Daleks? When they're done well, they're done really well, and they're fantastic. They're not always done well. Paradigm Daleks. So, when they're done well, they're good. I like the Daleks. There you go, that's my Doctor Who tag. The tradition is to tag other people to do that as well. So as well as tagging anybody that's watching this video, you are all tagged, I will also specifically tag Rob Wong, who is one of my co-presenters on Doctor Who Rebrief, and I'll also tag my sister, Holly Reader, who does a booktube channel as well. See you soon.